Rethinking Heroes, Life After the Military.
I've spent a decade taking a bite out of conspiracy theories, unraveling urban legends, and grappling with worldwide top secret issues.
I've even racked up some of their awards.
Wow, first of all, what a question.
Journalism is about telling the truth, all while ferreting out the bottom line.
I'm a Harrison Hellraiser.
With me, Cary Harrison, as your guide.
Rethinking Heroes, Life After the Military with Cary Harrison.
Cary Harrison with you, and welcome to Rethinking Heroes, rethinkingheroes.com. We talk about the different heroes that we encounter, many of whom are former veterans, active or retired service. We've had on extraordinary people, congressmen, senators, generals, people who have been in World War II, the last living people that actually conquered the Eagle's Nest in Germany and fought the Nazis. An extraordinary reach and range we've had here. Today, I want to talk a little bit about not only KPFK, because this is the plot of the play here. Without KPFK, none of us would be here having this level of conversation. When I say this level, we're going to talk to a guy who's a dual board certified child and general psychiatrist. Why? Because we're all depressed. We all see, we augur hopelessness. We encounter what seems like profound misery, whether it's homelessness on the streets, whether it's just general bummage, whether it's geopolitics or just politics, period. People running for president, not running for president, fill in the blanks. All of it. It just seems like a wild circus of, I can't get out of it. There is no hope whatsoever. Well, not true, thankfully. So we have brought on the very best of the best. And when I say that, I am not hyperbolizing here. We at KPFK spend a lot of time digging around and looking for the top shelf people. We're not looking for people with opinions. We're not looking for people with, vagaries and fantasies, but people with clinical experience that actually have bona fide solutions. And as you know, that's what we do here, Rethinking Heroes. By the way, Cary Harrison with you. Forgot to introduce myself. Naughty radio behavior there. But we just came right out of the box celebrating KPFK. And today we're going to raise a little money for the station. We're going to raise it so that we can continue this unexpurgated, unlimited free speech experience, which exists, by the way, nowhere else. When I say nowhere else, I mean nowhere else. Find a commercial station that isn't a Ku Klux Klan rally. There isn't one, but there is on FM. Friggin' magic is what it stands for. Ask any radio engineer, and you'll see this is the place to go. I want you to remember our number, 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735, and you can make a donation. And for that donation today, you're going to get our unlimited Rethinking Heroes card. And what that does is it entitles you, if you're a vet, a civilian, or just you, to make your life more sustainable. If you go to the pharmacy, who doesn't? It could be Walgreens, it could be CVS, it could be Rite Aid, doesn't really matter. You can take this card and get up to 90% off your medications, depending which they are. But if you have something called blood pressure, we all do. Some people have it a little more than others, and it has to be medicated. Some people have cholesterol. Ding, ding, my hand just went up in the air. So I get to take the delicious atorvastatin. Yum, yum, yum. Take it every night when I go to bed. And guess what? I have perfect cholesterol. Without it, not so perfect. But do I want to pay retail? No. Do I want to do my co-pays and all this other crazy stuff? If I can get up to 90% off medications, go to rethinkingheroes.com. If you make a pledge today, you get this card for free and for fun. It's a free digital download. And guess what? It doesn't expire. That was the deal we made with this so-called pharmaceutical company that engineered this madness for you. Why? Because they love public radio. They love public radio. And they listen to it the way you and I listen to it. We drive in our cars. We turn it on. It is the only source of information that we would consider sober today. And so it's an extraordinary experience no matter what business you're in. So they created this card. Go to rethinkingheroes.com. You can do a free digital download. And if you don't have a lot of money or a color printer, you go to your public library. You can print it out there, or it's got a QR code. You can use it on your phone as an app, or you can just write down your number on a little piece of paper and walk it into your pharmacy and get up to 90% off your medications, your prescriptions forever. Did I say forever? Yes, I did. We're also going to have another forever coming up as part of our premium when you pledge $150 today at KPFK. Let me first, as I teased you, as I tickled your frenulum, let me introduce Owen Scott Muir. Dr. Owen Scott Muir, a dual board certified child and general psychiatrist, co-author of a new book upcoming, which the title I cannot mention, but let's just say we will let you know about it later because it is the fix for you and me. But we're going to talk about what's in the book today so that you know, so that you can walk away with real information and make your life better. He has held academic appointments at Hofstra-Northwell, New York University. Baylor has over 200 academic presentations and publications to his credit, focusing on high-risk populations, ding, 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 and the role of interventional anti-effect size interventions. We're going to explain what that is in just a second, including work with veteran populations, therefore a rethinking hero. He has over 60,000 hours of clinical experience, has built multiple companies, sold multiple companies, and that is also his expertise. So we're going to be looking at, with Dr. Owen Muir, how to build a business, the truth about mental health, its crisis, where you stand in that, suicide prevention, which affects all of us. If you have children, boy, does that particularly. He also is involved in AI research work, AI being artificial intelligence. So if you think you're going to have a job in 3 years, Walmart just announced within the last few days that they're going to be increasing their automated whatever you call these giant stores, from 35% to 65% in the next 2 years. Oh, but don't worry, no one will be fired. Really? We've never seen in history anyone not getting fired when automation comes in. So where will all of that unfold? We're going to take a peek at the future. How does that affect and overlap you and me? Plus depression. Dr. Muir has been involved in verifiable fixes for depression that take 5 days. Depression. Yeah, that 5 days, not 50 years with a therapist. Well, you see, I woke up this morning and he sits there writing on a legal pad and says, thank you so much at 40 minutes. Goodbye. No. Much more interactive and cool. We're going to find out first. Owen Muir, without taking another pause of teeing you up like a giant golf ball, I want to welcome you to Rethinking Heroes.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm actually, for listeners to the station, I'm the first person who ever used a version of that card. And so I can tell you it's true. I was the test pilot here at a Duane Reade in New York City. This is our medication discount card at rethinkingheroes.com. You had one of the founders of Capital RX, and I worked with that team to build the very first version of this, and was the very first person to use it. So I got my medication for less than my copay would have been. And my brain blew up. And I, went deep down the rabbit hole on why this is so amazing. But so people know, they're going to be oftentimes paying less than their copay would be, which gives you a sense of how much of a scam it is.
So in other words, it's closer to being in Europe where you have no copay, actually no cost, and you have all you can eat medical care because your insurance covers that, or your taxes actually give you something back. This is as close as we're going to get to the shores of Europe across the Atlantic Ocean in our own little ways, because we are giving it to the man. We are poking him. We're kicking him in the you-know-whats and making it happen for our friends and listeners here on KPFK Public Radio.
It's an amazing benefit.
So let's talk about the other benefit. When you pledge because you care about free speech, because you care about your education, you care about the health and safety of yourself and everyone you're involved in, when you support KPFK with a $150 pledge at 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735, we're going to make sure you get a thank you gift of Dr. Muir's newsletter. And we're going to get into what's in it. But it's $99 a year for regular people who do not listen to this station. And it's called the Frontier Psychiatrist. And you're going to get an unlimited subscription. In other words, lifetime subscription.
That's correct.
Forever. Plus his podcast. If you are paying $150 an hour to go to a therapist right now who sits with a legal pad, probably imagining posting stuff on Facebook that's personal to him, maybe listening to you, maybe not. And I'm being cynical because I have done that for years. Occasionally, I got some interesting insights, but they never felt obligated to ever say anything to me or offer me feedback. I learned better. I realized that much of therapy, that kind of therapy is the self-serve pump, but I'm a full-serve kind of guy. That's why KPFK is here. That's why this information, that's why we bring on the guy who's going to help fix you right here, right now, by giving you the information you need and love. Dr. Owen Muir, let's talk a little bit first about building a business, because I think back 100 years ago, 90% of Americans were entrepreneurs. 10% worked in factories and had jobs. Now, 90% of us are reliant on others to survive. But those others are turning into AI or turning into we don't know what. And we're back to, now what? But you've been able to successfully do this. Is it possible for the average person?
So it's more possible than ever before. And it's not necessarily the right gig for everybody. I think one of the misunderstandings about being a builder, right, someone who wants to create something, is that you have to ask permission. And my newsletter is a good example of that. My wife, who's also a psychiatrist, and my wife is Carlene McMillan. She's the chief medical officer at a company called Osmind, which is a venture-backed, mental health technology company. But she and I were on Clubhouse back in the day, and we had a creator first show, and they gave us a little pittance, and we talked to people and found the messaging we had was really kind of compelling. And for a long time, I didn't do anything with that. I'm like, I'm waiting for someone else to make me, amplify my voice. I'm waiting for someone else to do it. I'm going to work with somebody XYZ. And then I get just tired of people not being able to do it. And so a newsletter is a business for some people. And the way to do it is to just start doing it, for example. And my model is most of it's free. A little bit of it is paid. It's some good stuff. Some of the older stuff goes behind a paywall. But I literally post every day at this point. And I have something to say. Today's post will be about not having anything to say and what that's like for a writer, just to give you an example. But I write about healthcare, mental health, innovation, etc. And I try to make it fun and engaging and funny. And
let's talk a little bit.
That's an example. Yeah.
That's a perfect example, because everyone has an expertise. I mean, if you're a good cook, you're a good cook. I am not a good cook personally.
Terrible.
But you're a good cook. Whoever you are a good cook, and you know it, and you love it, and you like cutting up radishes and celery, and like it turns you on and it's hot. And to me, it's pain and torture and suffering. And things that I think are really cool, you would hate standing up maybe in front of 1 million people and talking. That would kill you. So we all have these specialty things, and really it's about making that available on the giant stage that is available now with technology for the benefit of other people. And that's what your newsletter does. When people pledge right now to KPFK at 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK, you're going to get a lifetime subscription to Dr. Muir's newsletter, which comes via email form. You can get it on the Substack app. You don't have to dig around and go find it. It's going to come in your inbox. Plus, you get an unlimited lifetime. So as long as you live, and hopefully that's more than a little bit, hopefully all of us, as long as you live, you're going to get constant updates on fixes for your natural situation, how to think, how to react, how to speak, how to navigate through the impossible, unpredictable shoals of the future. This is Dr. Owen Muir's specialty. He has over 200 academic presentations. All of that thinking is included in his newsletter. Publications all over the place. High-risk populations has delved deep into it. And of course, has helped our veteran populations, people who willingly signed a blank check to the government and went off and risked their lives on behalf of you and me. Well, he has learned how to help them too. Let's talk for a second about what you've been able to learn and do for veteran populations, which represent millions of people in the U.S., despite watching CNN and the Kardashians.
Yeah, I mean, despite or with the ample help of, right? So I have two clinical gigs. One of them is at Acacia Clinics in Sunnyvale, California, and one of them is at my practice Fermata in New York. And fermata.health is that website, and acaciaclinics.com is theirs. And in both places, I was thrilled to join that team because we're doing accelerated treatment for depression. I also do supervision for clinicians around mentalization-based treatment, which is an approach to psychotherapy that doesn't suck, hopefully, or admits.
What does it mean, mentalization?
It means British people came up with the name to compel other British people to be interested, and so they went with something amusing.
And what does it involve?
I mean, I'll tell you what it actually means. Not an answer to your question, right? So the idea was, hey, how can we get therapists to be curious about the experience of the people they're working with? Because it turns out, Peter Fonagy, who's actually knighted for this work in the UK at the Anna Freud National Center for Children and Families, he was called in to work with people with brittle diabetes who weren't getting better. And the reason they weren't getting better is they were squirting their insulin down the drain. And that doesn't do a lot for diabetic control. So
how about nothing?
Well, yeah, but why, right?
So other than losing weight.
Well, I mean, they tried everything. They tried, a little bit of behavioral this, a little bit of cognitive, nothing worked, right? And what happened was Dr. Fonagy came in with his team and they started talking to people about their lives, their feelings, what's going on, right? Being curious about their experience. And what they learned was that people didn't have a language for their internal experience. And once they had words to say how they felt that meant something to them, they stopped doing crazy things. And based on that training, I was able to develop a program that reduced hospitalization by 90% in a cohort of people in a prior business that were acutely suicidal and wanted to die all the time. Now, it turns out that when you're working with folks who want to die a lot, having something biological to help matters a lot. And so the accelerated TMS, doing brain stimulation rapidly in the course of 5 days, can lead to remission of that depression in 5 days with no medications whatsoever. And so
I'm going to translate Dr. Owen Muir because we do have 20-year-olds listening to this as a podcast or a live stream versus radio listeners who tend to skew older and have a different kind of education that's a little more analogical. So when we talk about 5 days, depression going into remission using this brain stimulation, what we're saying is if you're depressed after 5 days, you could be undepressed?
Yep. And so it's worth talking about why we use the words we use, right? Is the radio. Yeah. And people, I hope, are subscribing right now to support this radio station, because this is where you're hearing the good word that your depression can be over.
Calling 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK. Make a $150 pledge. Make a pledge of whatever you feel you can. If it's under that, it's okay. You're still going to get a lifetime subscription to Dr. Owen Muir's The Frontier Psychiatrist, an unlimited lifetime subscription, plus his podcast, which is going to break down everything you need to know about your brain, your lifestyle, your emotions, who you are, how to function, how to build a business, like everything you ever wanted that you would go to a high-level university and pay hundreds of thousands of dollars. Well, he paid that to get his education. Now he's going to give it back to you for one pledge, all of it, years and years and years of life experience handed out for next to nothing for you to support public radio and freedom of speech. Call 1-800-985-5735. Pick up the phone right now and call. Did I say 1-800? I'm sorry. Obviously, I've been watching too much television lately. 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK, or you can make a secure donation at kpfk.org. $150 gives you not only this free lifetime unlimited subscription to Dr. Owen Muir's newsletter and his podcast, but you're also going to get your Rethinking Heroes card, which gives you up to 90% off on your medications at over 65,000 pharmacies coast to coast. Dr. Muir.
That's right. And so not only is that donation going to help you save an unbelievable amount of money on medications in most cases, but I'm telling you about treatment that exists. And if you're a veteran, and this is true, it's now $0 if you're suicidal.
And that would be because of the recent congressional act where if you're a veteran, and you can guide me here if I'm off, you could basically walk into any hospital, say, I'm a veteran, I'm depressed, and they must treat you for free.
So it's beyond that. And it didn't take an act of Congress, it took a lawsuit. But the VA...
Even better. Somebody was at work.
Yeah, so advocacy matters. And one of the pieces of advocacy that mattered was somebody saying it's not right that we don't take great care of our veterans. So if you walk into my clinic in New York at Fermata.health and you're a veteran and you're in a suicidal crisis, we can take care of you for 90 days at no cost to you. The same is true at Acacia. And so you can get the most cutting edge treatment and it won't cost you anything if you're a veteran. For other folks, there's a price, and we can talk about why that is.
Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison. Life after the military. RethinkingHeroes.com.
Cary Harrison here with an exciting radio gift benefit just for you this time. Rethinking Heroes has found one more way to help vets, civilians, and you to make your life more sustainable. This is radio giving back for all the time you've spent with us. Rethinking Heroes has found a forward-thinking partner who's created a complimentary downloadable discount pharmacy card to give you up to 90% off many of your prescriptions. If we don't care for each other, no one else is going to, that's for sure. So for us, it had to be no fees, no credit cards, no expiration dates for any and all listeners. Turns out the folks at CapRx also want to help fix our busted medical system. So we got a pile of complimentary downloadable discount cards for most medications, and they're good across 65,000 different pharmacies. Now you can cut out some of the middlemen as we have your back to stay well. Let's all make radio cool again. You can download your complimentary card now at RethinkingHeroes.com. RethinkingHeroes.com. That's RethinkingHeroes.com.
Rethinking Heroes. Life after the military with Cary Harrison.
Go to RethinkingHeroes.com. That is yours simply for being a listener of KPFK. And when you pledge right now and pick up the phone and call 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735, make a pledge. You're going to get Dr. Owen Muir's newsletter, which he publishes often. It's not like a weekly thing. He's obsessed. He has spent decades building his craft, his art form, and coming up with, and I'm going to say the word cure for depression. Is that am I over egging the pudding, calling it that?
So it's a great question if you are, and I actually wrote an article on that topic, right? What is a cure in psychiatry? Because for years we haven't been allowed to use that word, and I'm not going to use it now because I have a business relationship with those entities. And as a regulated device manufacturer, Magnus Medical, for example, can't say cure. If you look at the definition of the word cure, which I encourage people to do, it says like, are we alleviating all of the symptoms of a disease? And so we're comfortable talking about curing, XYZ thing. We're not comfortable talking about it in depression because one's never existed before is my guess. So can your depression symptoms be over? Yes. Does depression come back for some people? Also, yes. Is that true for a cold? Also, yes. So there's no cure for life. Right? Your life, you will get old, you will die, you'll suffer, you will have difficulties. And I think, thinking about what is a cure, even having that conversation about if we can talk about that is such an unbelievable milestone in the field of psychiatry that it boggles the mind. The fact that we haven't been talking about if something's a cure is something we should all be deeply ashamed of.
Well, let's take a look at that, Dr. Owen Muir. Why have we not been talking about it? Is it shame? I mean, what is it?
So part of it is understanding, what depression is and what it's not. And so not everything that's a struggle or sadness is depression. And not all depression is a struggle or even sadness. Depression is the least reliable diagnosis in the DSM-5. And that means when you have expert research raters using the criteria for depression, they don't agree on what it is as often as they do for other conditions.
I'm just going to jump in DSM-5.
The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 5th edition.
Exactly.
There you go.
It's your holy Bible for psychiatry. Well, for medicine, really.
So it's a product of the American Psychiatric Association.
Yeah.
And we had to make a decision about how we were going to define things, and we've had to revise it over time. But that doesn't mean it's perfect. Not all things that are in the book are true. Not all things that are true are in the book. And so what I've learned as a physician is that people suffer. And sometimes there's deep sadness, and sometimes it has biological roots. Sometimes we can understand that as whatever depression is. And it turns out when you take someone who has that thing that we've learned in the course of medical training as depression, and you treat that person's brain with stimulation, and you do that 10 times a day, 5 days in a row for 8.5 minutes a time, 79% of people will have their symptoms of depression be over in 5 days.
Interesting that we're talking about this because, Facebook, not shockingly, Mark Zuckerberg has been aware of this in a whole different way. MTV in the 1980s realized that if they did a video edit in under every 10 seconds, so like every 5 to 7 seconds, a video edit, it caused the brain to release endorphins or something or other. And people they felt better watching MTV. I mean, who cares if you like the music or not? But all this constant changing stimulated the brain. Facebook and our mobile phones, our smartphones are constantly changing, updating, scanning, texting. I mean, you just can't even ignore it. And I feel mine, and I'm not the only one. I feel it vibrating in my pocket when it is not. So this is akin to that in some way, but you're using it positively.
So it's actually the opposite.
Okay.
It takes that basic mechanism in the brain, that spacing matters, right? We learn things by spacing them out and reintroducing them. This is called long-term potentiation in science terms. But basically, if you're studying for an exam and you have a flashcard, is it more effective to look at the flashcard once a day, every day for 36 days, or to look at it 10 times a day and have a little bit of space between them? Well, we know the answer. It's 10 times a day. You'll learn something new. If you're trying to get someone addicted to something, what you do is you have an intermittent reinforcement schedule. And so you have thing presented, whatever it is, pause, and you don't know how long it's going to be. And you want to have it again. Ooh, I feel good now that I got it again. And so that creates.
You should see the video of this. That was pretty good, pretty compelling.
Right? That joy that you're getting from a zap, right? That trains you to do a behavior, but it doesn't change how you feel about the behavior. It takes craving and reinforces it. And that's different from learning how to have a more refined relationship to your cravings.
And as I've been saying, Dr. Owen Muir, a big deal is, well, it's quite relative, but what is a big deal actually?
So what we're looking for is not just statistical significance. What that means is, did we demonstrate to our satisfaction that this wasn't due to chance? But tiny differences can be due to not chance, right? We can do something that did something, but not much. And then there are some changes which are huge and indisputable. And so comparing how big of a deal something is different than comparing whether it was due to chance or not. And it's important to not confuse those. So I have the following metaphor, which will help. If we remember the song by Skilo, I Wish I Was a Little Bit Taller. It goes like this from the 90s. I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was a baller. I wish I had a girl. If I did, I would call her. And so he's a short rapper who wanted to be taller. And I think that's actually the most helpful metaphor to explain effect size, aka how big of a deal something is. So in American males, the standard deviation, how different it is to be on average, is 3 inches, right? So most men are within 3 inches of the average height. And so using inches, how much taller something would make you is the metric I use. And so if we're talking about a treatment for depression, that's an SSRI that has an effect size of 0.5. And that means it would make you 1.5 inches taller if it was a height medicine. When we talk about accelerated transcranial magnetic stimulation with SAINT neuromodulation, we're talking about an effect size of 1.7, which would make you 4.8 inches taller. And so do you want to be a little bit taller, 1.5 inches? Do you want to be a little bit taller? Abilify augmentation is about 0.2. So that would be like, 0.4 inches taller. Like, yeah, you're taller.
We're talking about getting rid of depression here.
Yeah,
so
yeah. And so for anything, if you normalize effect size into height, it makes some sense. So how much taller are we talking? Is this a little lift in my shoe? And that's, a pill that you give on top of your antidepressant. Ask your doctor about augmenting your depression, right? That's a lift in your shoe. That's what we're talking about. It's like, 3.3 inches or whatever.
Tom Cruise level.
Yeah. It helps Tom Cruise, but it's not going to make you a giant, right? And the difference between that and something that's a huge deal, that's 3 inches or more on average in height. And that's equivalent to an effect size of 1. And so when we're looking at a big deal, we're talking about something that makes you, if it was a height medicine, 3 inches or more taller. And if it's, 0.5 inch, do you really care? Are you willing to go through the side effects to get, a shoe lift? And that's the question that we really need to ask. Is like, is it a big deal? Is it going to make you a little bit taller? Or is this a 6'4" Impala? If you're a rapper from the 90s.
Rethinking Heroes, Life After the Military.
And so if we want to get someone to do a thing, right, we have to give them a reward, right? And if we want them to do it forever, we want to make sure we're not extinguishing the desire. So I write about stuff in a way that's funny. That's my jam.
Yeah.
And the things I write about are important. So I'm writing about important things about which one wouldn't ordinarily laugh in a way that makes it tolerable by being funny. And I'm doing that very explicitly to convince people that they should change their mind in a way that's going to be seductive. And what I mean by seductive is I'm not going to give you the hard sell. I'm going to make a little bit of fun. I'm going to have a little bit of lightness. But at the end, if you think something different, then we won. I'm not going to come at you with bombast. I'm going to come at you with a little bit of humor. And so I write about health and healthcare so people will understand it in common language in a way that's funny. And I do it regularly because if you do something regularly, you reinforce the behavior of, for example, checking my newsletter or my website.
And the good news is you're not just laying it out, here's more information like you're reading the Wall Street Journal. Dr. Owen Muir, who you're listening to right now, is talking to you personally and giving you secrets that took him decades to learn, develop, experience, including this close to the word that starts with C and rhymes with your. For depression and other things, he's working with big organizations that are doing extraordinary, groundbreaking science here. And so he's laying out how your life can get better. You're going to get an unlimited lifetime subscription. It comes with your donation to KPFK at 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK. Pick up the phone right now. Make that donation. Why? Because public radio is on the chopping block. The federal government is pulling the plug. Why? Because the federal government is now controlled by who? Exactly. What is inconvenient? What we talk about. It has to go away, and they are making it go away. We've been talking about this since the 1990s when Bill Clinton, regrettably, for a likable guy in many ways, but he was the one that pulled the last, plug out of when you couldn't have the newspaper own the TV station, which owned the radio station. Now we have basically 3 or 4 companies that own all the media in the United States of America. And the signal you're listening to right now, and this show, Rethinking Heroes, is not governed by any corporation. It is not censored. We are not told by a general manager or by a program director or by anyone, oh no, you cannot do that topic. In fact, the more forbidden the topic, the more likely we are to do it for you every single day. That's why you want to support what you're listening to by picking up the phone right now and dialing 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735. We're asking for a $150 pledge. With that, you get Dr. Owen Muir's newsletter. A lifetime subscription. Ordinarily, it's $99 out there on the free and open market. But if we are one-time pledge to KPFK at 818-985-5735, you're going to get that newsletter, which several times a week is going to give you the secrets to not only your mental health, how to combat depression, how to combat people that are irritating and nasty, how to figure out, is it a clinical depression, meaning you're in a bad situation only, or if it's a physical depression, also how to build a business, how to get off your 8,000-ton large curd cottage cheese rear end and into action. Because
I do
what?
Address obesity.
Yes. If you don't actually go do something about it, it doesn't get done. I know. It seems like kindergarten, but guess what? It is kindergarten you and I live in, with all the nonsense and data we're being pounded with all the time without any fact-based anything. It's hard to know what's real and what's not. If you want a reality check, if you want to know what is real and where you stand on it and how to navigate these endlessly impossible shoals of your future, if you feel hopeless, if you can't see a future, Dr. Owen Muir has found a way to share decades of experience, clinical research, proven results with you vis-a-vis his newsletter, vis-a-vis his podcast, unlimited lifetime subscription. When you call 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735, make a $150 donation. Make it at any level you can. You're still going to get it. You're also going to get our Rethinking Heroes card, which gives you up to 90% off of your prescriptions at 65,000 pharmacies across the country. Why would KPFK do that for you? Because it wants to give back. Yes, we're public radio. We're reliant on you, listener supported. We don't take money from United Airlines, from Chevron, so we can't sit around and fly first class like NPR. And they do, by the way. We cannot do that. So we're really relying on you. But we also believe in giving back. We not only give back through the product, through the programming, through giving you information and content you won't get anywhere else, but we're finding new ways to give you back by saving you money, by saving your life, by helping you deal with life on life terms. And that's why we have with us right here on Rethinking Heroes, Dr. Owen Scott Muir, dual board certified child and general psychiatrist. And Dr. Muir, why is public radio important? You've heard everything and seen everything in your life. Why public radio?
So for me, one of the things that turns out to be important is trust, right? And we take trust for granted in medicine, and we don't on public radio. We have to earn it. And we earn trust with listeners by telling them the truth and doing it over and over again. And when we're wrong, admitting it. And that's what I've heard from public radio growing up. It's what I didn't hear on other forms of media. And so building trust is something we can never take for granted. And like you said, it's listener supported radio. If listeners don't trust us, they're not going to support. And if we don't serve our listeners as public radio fans and guests and hosts, then what's that relationship? It's not one built on trust. And I think healthcare has made the mistake of not being a public radio model, right? If healthcare had to be listener supported, right? Health supported, if people had to choose to pay for the care they got, we'd have a very different world than when they're being shaken down, which is the standard right now, is an endless debt riddled shakedown that you never see coming. And that's not the right way to do it. And I think public radio has understood forever that building trust matters, and never take that trust for granted.
Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison. Life after the military. RethinkingHeroes.com.
Cary Harrison here with an exciting radio gift benefit just for you this time. Rethinking Heroes has found one more way to help vets, civilians, and you to make your life more sustainable. This is radio giving back for all the time you've spent with us. Rethinking Heroes has found a forward-thinking partner who's created a complimentary downloadable discount pharmacy card to give you up to 90% off many of your prescriptions. If we don't care for each other, no one else is gonna, that's for sure. So for us, it had to be no fees, no credit cards, no expiration dates for any and all listeners. Turns out the folks at CapRx also want to help fix our busted medical system. So we got a pile of complimentary downloadable discount cards for most medications, and they're good across 65,000 different pharmacies. Now you can cut out some of the middlemen as we have your back to stay well. Let's all make radio cool again. You can download your complimentary card now at rethinkingheroes.com. Rethinkingheroes.com. That's rethinkingheroes.com.
Rethinking Heroes, Life After the Military with Cary Harrison.
Cary Harris with you. This is Rethinking Heroes, rethinkingheroes.com, where you can go right now. Get a free digital download. Get our discount card, pharmacy discount card, which gives you up to 90% off your medications. Most of them anyway. You can go in there. It's good at 65,000 pharmacies coast to coast. Pretty much anyone you can think of, they're going to have something there going for you. And you're going to be able to get your medications at a giant discount. This can save thousands a year. Especially as we get older, we need more medications. It's a given, pretty much. Things start to break. They start to not work as well. And we do have this extraordinary technology through medications, but they ain't free in the USA. So that's why we're finding a way to give back here at KPFK. When you give to us at 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK, or securely donating at kpfk.org, a $150 pledge, a $150 pledge. It's nothing. And you get not only this Rethinking Heroes card at rethinkingheroes.com, but you're also going to get Dr. Owen Muir's The Frontier Psychiatrist, unlimited subscription.
Plural. The Frontier Psychiatrists. The Frontier Psychiatrist is
plural.
a great... Yeah, plural.
More than one.
Well, so the Frontier Psychiatrist is a great song by the Avalanches. And the Frontier Psychiatrists is the newsletter. And originally it was written by my wife, who occasionally makes a guest appearance as an editor or a co-columnist. But it's that's the name of the thing, the frontierpsychiatrist.substack.com. Most of it's free, some of it's paid, and donators get the free version and the paid version and all of it.
Yes, you not only get it now, but you get it forever.
Forever. So
your one-time donation today, and we do hope that you'll continue to donate, but your one-time donation today for a $150 pledge is going to get you a lifetime subscription. So do the math. If Dr. Muir is getting $99 a year in 20 years, this thing is paid for itself, hundreds of times over. And you're going to be walking away with decades of experience that took him decades to learn. And as a doctor, imagine a doctor who's been practicing for decades, what they know, if they were actually willing to share that and give you real people med school. That's what we're talking about. And of course, because his psychiatric field is expansive and he's dealing with so much science, he's also learned about the nature of building a successful business and giving you that boost, that self-esteem, that ability to go out and conquer, even if you don't have that much gumption, to use what gumption you do have and turn it into something cool. Let's talk about that for a second, Dr. Owen Muir. Even if you don't have a ton of gumption, can you do it with 25% gumption?
The first question is, the gumption to non-gumption ratio.
Right.
Yeah. The thing is, everyone imagines you have to have perfect amounts of gumption to go out and do it.
Right.
And what I've learned is go out and fail, over and over again. And it turns out failure on repeat, as it were, turns out to be success in retrospect. So.
Well, we have a wonderful example in Thomas Edison, who was asked famously, how many times did it take for you to figure out how to light a light bulb? He said, 10,000 tries, but really what I learned is 9,999 ways not to make a light bulb work. Wow.
Right. And so my argument is essentially, the opposite of despair and hopelessness and death is hope. And it's hope that if you try one more time, there's some value to that. And it's not predicated on whether it's a tremendous success every time. There is a nobility to doing it. And it turns out iteratively doing it, and even if it's lame, I wrote an article today, if people go to the frontierpsychiatrist.substack.com and read it, about not having anything to say, to make a point about writing regularly. But
or even better, don't go there. Pledge right now so that you can get an all-you-can-eat, a free lifetime subscription. He's giving this to you. He is donating it to KPFK listeners at no cost.
All something the really good stuff.
Yeah, something that captures right. No, it's free when you donate. This is a gift. Not charging the station. Sometimes we have to kick in for some of these premiums, and then, it just makes it even tougher on us. This is a pure gift from him, a medical doctor, to you, the listener, so that your life becomes better. Because like me, like him, like you, we all have faith in each other. And we know if we don't help each other, there is no one out there to rescue us. It's certainly not the government. It's certainly not the anything. It's just us, which is why we do listener supported radio, because we are able to provide the programming that you're not going to get anywhere else. So pick up that phone, grab it, snatch it up, pull it out of the cradle, as Ian Fleming would say, and call 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735, 818-985-5735. Make a pledge to KPFK. Make it for $150. When you do, you're going to get a lifetime unlimited subscription to Dr. Owen Muir's newsletter, and his podcast is included. So when you're at the gym, bench pressing 480 pounds in your cocktail dress, and people stare at you, exothermically with bug eyes, drooling, going, how did she do that? You're going to say, well, I listen to Dr. Owen Muir's podcast, and I learned how to pull this off, at least mentally. Not that you could ever physically do it. All joking aside, if you want to know the shortcuts and secrets to a better life, then you ask somebody who has done the research, a scientist who actually knows how the brain works. So this isn't ooga booga. This isn't metaphysics here. We're not selling you nirvana or ambrosia. This is science, and I happen to like science. I even think that Newton was right, and if I drop an apple, it will hit the floor. This is the basis of your study, Dr. Owen Muir. This is what you bring to the table, is not hope because you say so or claim so. The fact is, scientifically, it's true.
It's what's likely versus what's not, and what is by chance and what is not. And the truth about depression is it's hard to study because people's hope is powerful. Hope is real. And I would never want to say anything about hope or placebo, right? That's negative because hope is what gets us better. But there's kind of a speed limit on hope. And it's a little bit like exceeding the speed of light, really hard. You can actually break the laws of emotional physics and exceed that hope threshold if you have science on your side. And that's what accelerated TMS. There's even a version of it Dr. Cary created at Acacia Clinics called Hope TMS.
And I'm going to jump in because we're using terms that people may not know about. TMS.
Brain stimulation with transcranial magnetic stimulation. What we're doing is we're taking a picture of your brain with an fMRI. We're precisely targeting where that brain stimulator is going to go. And we are doing that stimulation, which is non-invasive, not surgery, not under anesthesia. You're awake. It is a little uncomfortable, and that's about it. And we do that for 5 days, and depression in 79% of people is over in those 5 days.
This is a remarkable piece of information for just about anyone. And as Dr. Owen Muir pointed out earlier, if you are a vet, which means you've served in the military and you no longer are in the military, or I imagine if you're still in the military, it's possible, and you go into any hospital or anywhere, hospitals mostly, I'm guessing.
So no, that's the point.
Okay.
So I'm kind of a hospital abolitionist when it comes down to it. But right now you go into a hospital for depression, there's help, but it's not as helpful as it could be. And it turns out the most innovative treatments are only available right now in the outpatient setting. And so the work I've been doing for years and Acacia has been doing for years, and now we're doing together, is taking innovative treatments like that accelerated neuromodulation treatment. The brand name of that is SAINT, which is pretty appropriate. Stanford Accelerated Intelligent Neuromodulation Treatment, or SAINT, which is a brand name. And we're using science to precisely target a spot and to do a treatment that they don't have in hospitals now, but should. And so the recent ruling, and this is important for veterans to know, is that you can go to any provider, not just a hospital, but a clinic like Acacia or a clinic like Fermata, and we can still treat you because the VA has agreed to pay for 90 days if you're suffering from suicidality at no cost to you. And so that's important to know.
Let me just repeat what you just said. If you're a veteran and you're depressed, all you need to do is walk in, say, I'm depressed, and you get 90 days of free treatment.
So it is treatment that the VA has agreed to pay for at zero cost to the veteran. Now, you can't just walk in. You have to make an appointment so we can do an appropriate evaluation.
Of course.
But if you walk into any facility of any kind, whether it's an outpatient clinic or hospital or whatever it happens to be, and you're suffering, it's not on your dime anymore as a veteran.
Wow. This is remarkable. And I know you, Dr. Owen Muir, have been instrumental in also making that available for all our veterans.
That's correct.
And this will extend to the civilian population down the road, I'm convinced, because anytime you can change the nature of the human being for the better, well, it's going to be popular, I would think.
Yeah. And so one of the things I've been working on for years is bringing down the cost of this and bringing down the barriers. And I'll have more to say about that soon, but suffice to say, it's a remarkably effective treatment. The remission rates your depression will be over are between 65% and 79%, depending on the study you're looking at. And when you compare that to medications, we're talking about, 10, 15% if you're treatment resistant and dropping thereafter. Even with your first medication trial, the chance that your depression will be over is about 30%. It's not good. Wow. And so getting people well and now in a time frame that's acceptable to them, but the outcome isn't 50% less miserable, which is the measuring stick we used for oral medications. It's your depression should be over. And then you have more important and interesting things to talk about in therapy, so that it can be useful and work and do something and not just be, thanks. But look, trying to do therapy with someone whose brain is so impaired because of depression that you're going to somehow change that is difficult. And therapy works. It's a remarkable treatment. It saves people's lives every day. I would never disparage it. But there are different therapists who are differently good for different people. But it really helps to have your brain be intact when you're doing that. Medications are only so good. And brain stimulation, it turns out, on average, is better, especially if you haven't responded to anything before.
All right. Well, I appreciate your coming on Rethinking Heroes today. We've been talking to Dr. Owen Scott Muir, and we've been talking about ways through regular life, especially as it's becoming more increasingly difficult, just like cryptocurrency, like everything else. I mean, we are bombarded with what seems to be an impossible future, but he's showing and demonstrating that through his newsletter, he gives you the secrets of all the decades of his personal learning, not only as a scientist, as a physician, but also changing public policy, which is key, not only helping veterans, but it helps you and me. He's revealing all of those secrets. When you make a pledge to KPFK, you get that lifetime subscription, which is normally $99 a year. You get it for the rest of your natural life. As long as you're sucking air and knocking out the CO2, you get that forever ad infinitum. You also get his podcast. It is included for your natural life. And hey, maybe you want to show that to your friends and family. I don't know. That's up to you. Here at KPFK, we are borderless. We are boundaryless. So call 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735, 818-985-5735. Make a donation. $150 is what we'd like to see. If you are only able to do less, that is okay. Not only do you get the lifetime subscription to Dr. Owen Muir's newsletter, The Frontier Psychiatrists, plural. That means lots of different brains doing input. You get that unlimited subscription forever, plus the podcast. It'll be emailed to you. And it's among the most valued newsletters by a psychiatrist in the world today, which is why we brought on Dr. Owen Muir. We only like you to fly first class as a listener, not coach. We want extra leg room and a reclining seat. That's why he is here today, providing what he provides. You'll get his newsletter, things like how to build a business, the truth about mental health crisis, your place in it, suicide prevention, I know I've thought about it more than one time. AI research work. Where is that going to lead? What is your position in it? Depression and the 5-day fix for that. All of the things he's involved in. This affects your life poignantly, directly, and personally. That's why pledging to KPFK also not only changes your life, but changes the life of people you love. Because without this information, without being able to bring on people like this, without having a thunderous, powerful, the most powerful FM frequency west of the Mississippi, pounding down to Mexico, as far north as Santa Barbara and out almost to Las Vegas. Then, of course, as you know, Rethinking Heroes is on every single major platform, whether it's Spotify, whether it's Apple, it doesn't matter. It is ubiquitous and everywhere, and all because KPFK exists, because you support it by calling 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735, 818-985-5735. Pick up the phone right now as we say goodbye to Dr. Owen Muir. Pick it up. 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK. Plus, if you're listening, free gift, no obligation. KPFK is giving back to you. Simply go to rethinkingheroes.com, spelt properly, not the Elon Musk way, rethinkingheroes.com, and you can download your free digital lifetime unlimited discount card, good at 65,000 different pharmacies coast to coast, and you'll get up to 90% off your subscription, saving you potentially thousands a year. KPFK giving back to you for giving to KPFK by calling 818-985-5735, 818-985-5735, 818-985 KPFK. And Dr. Owen Muir, I want to thank you for coming on today. And one final shout out for KPFK from your side.
It's been a lot of talking for the service of KPFK. It's great radio, and you should listen and keep listening, because that's what you do at the radio.
All right, my friend. Very much appreciated. Dr. Owen Scott Muir is a dual board certified child and general psychiatrist, co-author of Adolescent Suicide and Self-Injury, Mentalizing Theory and Treatment. He has held academic appointments at Hofstra-Northwell, NYU, Baylor, over 200 academic presentations and publications to his credit, focusing on high-risk populations and the role of, well, fill in the blank. He has been involved, including changing policy, over 60,000 hours of clinical experience. And he's been with us today here on Rethinking Heroes. Don't forget, you get your card at rethinkingheroes.com. Don't forget to make a pledge and get Dr. Owen Muir's unlimited lifetime forever subscription, his gift as a physician, as a doctor to you, as a healer of humans. He wants nothing back but your wellness. Plus, he has so much information and tips for us to get through life in a much easier way. 818-985-KPFK. Pick up the phone, make that $150 pledge, or anything that you can do to help the station so that we can help you back, like giving you this discount card at rethinkingheroes.com, where you get up to 90% off your medications forever. Cary Harrison with you. This is Rethinking Heroes. I look very much forward to talking to you next week.
Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison. Life after the military. RethinkingHeroes.com.
Cary Harrison here with an exciting radio gift benefit just for you this time. Rethinking Heroes has found one more way to help vets, civilians, and you to make your life more sustainable. This is radio giving back for all the time you've spent with us. Rethinking Heroes has found a forward-thinking partner who's created a complimentary, downloadable discount pharmacy card to give you up to 90% off many of your prescriptions. If we don't care for each other, no one else is gonna, that's for sure. So for us, it had to be no fees, no credit cards, no expiration dates for any and all listeners. Turns out the folks at CapRx also want to help fix our busted medical system. So we got a pile of complimentary downloadable discount cards for most medications, and they're good across 65,000 different pharmacies. Now you can cut out some of the middlemen as we have your back to stay well. Let's all make radio cool again. You can download your complimentary card now at rethinkingheroes.com. Rethinkingheroes.com. That's rethinkingheroes.com.